So understand, beloved brothers and sisters, just as this young man addressed it in the sanctuary of that very small church, God uses a man by the name of John to pen a letter on the behalf of Jesus Christ to the churches that he had issues with in that day and time. Because I want you to understand that struggles, mishaps, mess-ups, mistakes in the church ain't nothing new. I'm going to say it one more time. See, y'all think that the church back in the first century when Jesus was around, that was a perfect church. But the truth of the matter is they had issues in that church too. They had struggles in that church too. Y'all gonna get it in a few minutes. Prove it to me, Bishop Sapp. When the Bible lets us know that the letters that he sent to the 7 churches during that day and time, that they all had, watched this similar structure. Note what the structure was. Each of them had specific features. All of them had the same features. 7 specific things that he wrote to them about. The first thing he did is that when he wrote them, he addressed them to a particular congregation. But then after he addressed them to a particular congregation, he introduced Jesus. And then he goes forth and he gives a statement regarding the condition of the church. After he gives the statement regarding the condition of the church, he goes on and gives the verdict from Jesus regarding the condition of the church. But then he goes on and gives them a command from Jesus to the church. But then he goes on and he gives them a general exhortation to all Christians. But then he also stops and he says, I'm going to give you a promise of reward. And let me give it to you again. The first thing he does in each of the letters that he sends to the 7 churches is he sends an address to that particular congregation. He introduces Jesus to them. He gives them a statement regarding their condition. He gives them a verdict from Jesus regarding their condition of the church. He gives them a command from Jesus to the church. He gives a general exhortation to all the Christians, but then he concludes, watch this, by giving them a promised reward. Now let me go further. Because Ephesus, beloved brothers and sisters, in that day and time, the church that he was specifically writing to, it was a famous city in the ancient world that was unequal, or rather it was equally famous as a church, beloved brothers and sisters. Ephesus, walk with me now, was the city where Paul ministered for 3 years. It talks about it in Acts chapter 19, verse number 1, Acts chapter 10, and also Acts chapter 20, verse number 31. It was the city where Aquila and Priscilla, beloved brothers and sisters, with Apollos ministered as well. It was also a city where Paul's close associate Timothy ministered as well. So this was a church town. Touch somebody, say a church town. Tell somebody it was a church town. Y'all ain't talking. I need you to talk to somebody and say, tell them it was a church town. And according, beloved brothers and sisters, to strong and consistent church historical tradition, the Apostle John himself actually ministered there as well. Understand that Ephesus, beloved brothers and sisters, that it was also world famous, watch this, as a religious, cultural, and an economic center and or region. Ephesus, beloved brothers and sisters, had the notable temple of Diana, who was a fertility god, and that she was worshipped, watch this, with immoral sex. Touch somebody, say it was a church town. Tell somebody it was a church town. But it was a nasty town too. Okay, y'all go get it in a few minutes. This tremendous temple to Diana in Ephesus was regarded as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world at that time. It was supported, if you will, by 127 pillars. Each pillar was 60, if you will, 60 feet tall, and it was adorned with great sculptures. So Jesus, in our text, he sends to this letter to this church at Ephesus. He starts by saying something extremely profound. What does he say? He starts by commending the stuff that they were doing. He says, I know your works. I know your works. I know your labor. I know your labor, that you've been patient. I recognize that. I know that you cannot stand evil, and I recognize that you have persevered and labored, watch this, for his name's sake. But then he transitions in thought, and he says something extremely profound. What does he say? He says, nevertheless, I got something against you. And I talked about this a little last week. I talked about how so many times, beloved brothers and sisters, that we could be so focused on the labor in the house that we lose focus on the individual that we are supposed to be laboring for. I wish I had some help. I'm just trying to tie this whole thing together from last week to this week. He says, nevertheless, I got something against you. And this is what blows my mind. He says, what I have against you is that you have left your first love. He says, despite all of the good in the Ephesian church, there is something seriously wrong. Note what the text says. And this is where I got to pause for a minute. He says that you have left your first love. Hatcher, they're going to miss this. They're going to miss it. Note what he says in the text. He says that you have left your first love. He didn't say you lost it. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. I'm going to let it sink in. Because you need to understand, which implies something that's extremely profound. It implies that they once had a love that they didn't have anymore. Note what happens here. He says there is a distinction between leaving and losing. Something could be lost by accident, but when you leave it, it is a deliberate act. That did not happen suddenly. And that's why I got to pause, because the problem that many of us have in the 21st century church, the reason why we're sick of it is because we left something that we should not have never left. You didn't lose your religion, you left it. And you left it because you allowed the frustrations of life and issues in the church and attitudes with people that you were supposed to be serving with caused you to put something down that you should have held on to and allowed yourself to fight through it rather than giving in to your feelings. So herein lies the problem, family. You are a contributing factor to the church being sick. Again, something can be lost by accident, but leaving it is a deliberate act, though it may not happen suddenly. So the question to the church is, where did you leave it? I'm just trying to get, Rainbow, I'm trying to get stuff together. I'm trying to lay this foundation since I'm here. I know next week I'll be the real pastor, but right now I'm just trying to lay the foundation, because I need to make sure that as we move forward here at the vessel, that everybody has their passion back. Where did you leave your passion for God? That's what I want to know. Where did you leave your zeal and your passion to want to see souls brought into the kingdom of God? Why is it that now that you have gotten comfortable with just coming in the house of God and just sitting here and not serving? And you used to be the individual that was the first one at the church. You were the individual that was there to help the doors be open. You was the main one that was there to be an usher on the usher board, to be an individual that wanted to serve. You didn't walk past when stuff was on the floor. You used to pick it up because you understood that even if I'm nothing but a doorkeeper in the house of God, that's all I need to be, because I'm just trying to serve. Where did you leave your zeal? Because you didn't lose it, you left it someplace. You left it. You didn't lose it. So here it is. The question to the church is, where did you leave your zeal and your passion for the things of God? Let me tell you what John says. John says like this in New Living Translation, John 14:15. Note what he says. He says something profound. In John 14:15, he says, if you love me, you will do what I say. In the King James Version, it says like this. It says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. And I love John chapter 21, verse number 17, New Living Translation says, Jesus said to Peter, he said it 3 times. He said, Simon, son of John, he says, do you love me? Peter felt bad because Jesus asked him 3 times, do you love me? And he answered Jesus, Lord, you know everything. And know what he says? He says, you know I love you. And then Jesus says, feed my sheep. I got a problem with some of y'all because I've been telling y'all every week to bring somebody to church, and it don't look like it's getting no fuller. It looks like it's at the point that y'all ain't hearing what I'm saying. If you love him, your assignment is to bring somebody to the kingdom. It ain't just to see. Can I tell you something? I'm about to drop a major bomb in here. Sheep beget sheep, not shepherds. Okay, I can't get no help up in here. I can't give them what they need unless you bring them up in here. Y'all ain't talking to me. And you got the audacity to come up here and get dressed every Sunday, and you leaving your children at the house. You leaving your husband at the house. No, let me tell you something. If you live in my house, let everything. As for me and my house, we serving God. You can't lay up in this bed in this house and think you're going to eat my cereal and play with my PlayStation and watch my television, and you're not going to get your butt up and come to church on Sunday. The devil is a liar. Pack your stuff up before I get back home if you ain't going to come to church. This ain't no option. If I'm not winning anyone, I ought to be winning my household. If you're sick of this church, what is causing you to lack the desire to be salt and light anymore? What is creating the frustration and the tiredness that you feel as a whole? I just need a break. I'm just burnt out. I talked about this on, I love her. I do. Let me see something. I had you in Grand Rapids. Her name was Carolyn. Carolyn would say, help us, Pastor, help us. And I asked God before I got here, send me a Carolyn, Jesus, please. She ain't saying help us, but she said, serve it on a plate, Pastor, serve it on a plate. I love it. I love it. I talked about this Tuesday. I talked about this whole concept and aspect of burnout in the church. It is a confusing concept for me when it comes to those in the body of Christ. And let me tell you why it's confusing. You go to work and you pray that they give you overtime. Stay right there, Bishop. I think I will. You pray, you ask. Please don't let them say that they're giving 10 hours worth of overtime this week. Because you're going to work them 50 because you want that 10 hours overtime. Okay, let's go one step further. If they do mandatory overtime, you may complain, but you still going to work it. I wish I had a half a church up in here. Let's do some math quickly. Just quick. Here at Chosen Vessel, you come here at 11. We let you out by 1 when I'm preaching. When I'm preaching. That's 2 hours. If you're in the choir, they come at 9:30. That's 3.5 hours. If you're teaching in Sunday school, you have to be here by 10. So if you have responsibility, you're here on Sunday a minimum a maximum of 4.5 hours. Because I shake hands. The armor bearers, they hang out with me a little bit. We in the back. I may have some meetings because I'm catching planes out and stuff like that. So you hear a maximum of 4.5 hours. That's the max on Sunday. Tuesday, and see, some of y'all ain't here that long because service started at 11. You come at 11:30, 11:45. And then you got Tuesday night, which we start at 7, prayer. Most folk, I ain't gonna say nothing about prayer. I don't know why we think that prayer is like optional. But people come from 7:30 to 8. So now we're here 5.5 hours if you serving, maximum a week. How in the world are you burnt out and you only here for 5.5 hours? Okay, let me go. Can I go one step further? Because I got to stay here since I'm here. I might as well stay a little while longer. Here what blows my mind. You struggle with getting along with people, and y'all got the same focus on where all of us are trying to go to. We all trying to go to heaven. All of us trying to live holy. All of us know that we all have come short of the glory of God. You can get along with all them heathens on your job, but you can't get along with the saints in the... God is sick of you because you are a contributing factor to the problem that's in the church. You need to mature. You need to grow up, because if you can hang with them devils in the street, you ought to be able to come. Oh, that's the problem. I just got the problem. The problem is the reason why you can't get along with the saints in the church, because you ain't a saint.